Welcome to a special edition of HBCU Game Day Talks. Today we have a very special show as the HBCU world is being shocked once again. Bethune-Cookman University has decided to move from the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. This follows 2 weeks ago that FAMU had moved from the MEAC to the SWAC. News that North Carolina A&T had decided last year to move conferences as well. And so today we have the VP and Director of Athletics at the Bethune-Cookman University, Lynn Thompson, and representing the SWAC, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil is on with us. And today we just want to get right to the meat of the issue, Mr. Thompson. Bethune-Cookman has decided to switch conferences. What is your take on that?
Well, this was done after a great deal of research and, after a great deal of deliberation, Vaughn. And I just want to say also, thanks for having us on, too. This was not a decision that was made overnight. Having been in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference for 40 years and having had the opportunity now to really analyze the landscape, one would automatically deduce that the sands are shifting in college athletics. Even before the pandemic, you could see conference alignment and realignment happening due to a variety of so many reasons. Number one, travel, student athlete welfare issues, and some institutions, as their missions change and their leadership changes, those reasons come to play. But in the case of Bethune-Cookman University, we were challenged by our board of trustees to take a look at our strategic plan of the university under the new leadership, of course, of Dr. Ely Brent Cright and our new trustee team, to take a look and make some projections in light of the fact that the world of intercollegiate athletics is changing. The world of higher education is changing due to all of these new factors, and study the data and then make recommendations. And we did that. And I'm quite sure that Florida A&M had to do the same exercise. There are other conferences who are engaging in that exercise now. And most of us have very short windows. And many people may not recognize that. The windows upon which to make those decisions are being compressed right about now. And so we had to make the recommendations, and as a result, our Board of Trustees ratified the recommendations of our committee, and we made the announcement.
And going further, I have to throw this in. As the longest tenured Division I Director of Athletics as awarded this year, you have seen your share of landscape changes in the NCAA. So before I let Dr. Cavil chime in, just talk about that, because Florida A&M, just like Bethune-Cookman, had great relationships, had great runs with the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. Dr. Thomas has done a great job of elevating that conference and maintaining that conference. So just talk a little bit about your tenure and how you have seen the landscape change in NCAA athletics.
Well, yes, and the MEAC has been a tremendous conference for 4 years. Every school that has gone through the MEAC has been the beneficiary of some tremendous thinking, strategizing, and certainly brand innovation. And Dennis Thomas, through his tenure there, and even before Dennis with Ken Free, those guys understood what was going on and really put the MEAC on the forefront of America's thinking as it related to HBCU athletics. And for the MEAC to be one of only 2 HBCU Division I conferences, we carried with us the banner of Black America at its highest level in terms of intercollegiate athletics. And so for us to make this decision was bittersweet, and having the phone calls and the conversations with Dennis Thomas, who not only is a great colleague, but throughout the years has become a close friend. Dennis understood, and he recognizes that in the business in which we operate, those kinds of decisions happen, and I have the greatest level of confidence that that the MEAC will continue to exist, and Dennis and the team will strategize and develop some plans to move the MEAC forward. But I've seen so many different levels of changes. I mean, with the onset of Prop 48, those things happened when it said that it was going to legislate the best and the brightest student athletes away from the HBCUs. We've seen so many other things with APR. We're still fighting that battle. I happen to serve on the Committee on Academics. And we all know that, now we've seen, can you believe it? Institutions are now beginning, and Doc, you might understand this, to throw out test scores, standardized test scores as maybe the milestone and the standard on which students are enrolled in or admitted to colleges and universities. And so, Vaughn, when you look across the time span, kids still want to play ball. Kids in this era of social justice, I can tell you this, at the end of the day, in the huddles and in the locker rooms, we still have a way of making sure that is a place of sanctuary. We don't have to worry about the isms and the schisms of life because our kids just want to play ball. And the great teams at the HBCU levels, our great teams are comprised of kids who come from all walks of life, aren't they? And they get along well, and they find a way to execute the game plan to bring them to a championship moment. And if the rest of the world could understand what we know on our campuses, I think the world might be a better place. And so that is, and that is why, one of the reasons why Bethune-Cookman wanted to make sure that we continued, if we had the opportunity, to align ourselves with like-minded universities that shared our mission, our history, and our vision. And when we had the opportunity, we saw that the SWAC provided us the same opportunity, but this time, instead of staying east, maybe going west was best.
Certainly. Thank you for that. Mr. Thompson, I wanted to go back, as you talked about, the great relationship that you had with the MEAC and your stewardship, as a lot of people have suggested, the best, if not at least one of the best, VPs of athletics, ADs, as a lot of people term it, in the business. Can you share with us some of the things that Bethune-Cookman University, particularly the athletics department, will bring over from what they have and you have learned in the partnership with the MEAC, and now that you bring over to the SWAC in terms of this new relationship that starts in 2021?
Well, that's a tough question because you're asking us to give you our secret sauce. But,
you know I was going to try to get it on the top.
We've had this conversation before in hotel lobbies and everything. There is no, put it this way, there's a blueprint. And really it's staff consistency, okay? And hiring the right people and keeping those people really tuned in to your vision and your mission. It's not about always wanting to win every championship, but more importantly, it's about always wanting to be a champion. And every champion that we know of has lost. There are virtually no undefeated champions in the world these days. But you can live a championship lifestyle and operate as a champion, and that's what we endeavored to do at Bethune-Cookman. We wanted to make sure that, number one, that because we are a faith-based institution, that we bought into the notion that everybody that came to work with us, you had to recognize that this is your ministry. That meant that you got to have passion to work with young people. That meant that you'll be willing to do it for free or pay us to do it. Now, we understand that there's a business side to it, too. And Vaughn, you know this. We've had this conversation before, too. You got to be, your passion has got to be infectious, and you can't fool today's student athlete. You can't fake the funk, and that passion is infectious and it's authentic. And so when our staff interact with students, when they interact with each other. The passion has to just jump off the pages of the resume and out of your office, and everybody understands that I'm passionate about what I do. I've been called to do this. Secondly, you got to have integrity. People got to count on you to do what you say you're going to do. And that's the second thing. And the third thing is you got to have the capacity to teach. Coaching and in living in a world of administration, we got to always look at life as every day providing you teachable moments. Because when we go into the home on these home visits to talk to young people, we are convincing their parents that we're going to transform them. I don't care if he's 6'9", 275, he's still her baby. And she's going to entrust him to us to make him into a man and to transform his life. And so we got to have, and I call it the PICS process, passion, integrity, and the capacity to teach. And so that is what it is. When you walk inside our building here in our offices, everybody understands that it is indeed a ministry, and we happen to be involved in the Ministry of Athletics, and that resonates throughout each one of our coaches. Our student athletes understand that. And so when they step out to represent Bethune-Cookman, they understand that the name on the front of the jersey happens to say Bethune-Cookman. But on the back of the jersey, it represents generations of their family. And they should never, ever do anything to embarrass either name. And so when you recognize that and you continue to emphasize that, now when they come out of the locker room, they're representing thousands and thousands of people who believe in them. And you're pretty much ensured that you're going to get the best effort that you can possibly get out of the coach and the student athlete.
Well, I just want to say that one of the things that goes into making this decision is taking into effect and into account what your fan base would like. And knowing Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman University, the inherent intertwining of those institutions from families. I went to FAMU, been a rat law all my life. My father graduated from Bethune-Cookman University, and it goes like that, deeper than maybe any rivalry in the entire country. So having us play so often, I've got to know a lot of the coaches at Bethune. I'm very good friends with Coach Cooper, the track coach. Vanessa Blair Lewis has been gracious to us always. And of course, my buddy Terry Sims, who is a hoot, is a great guy. And part of going back to the question, part of that intertwining of the FAMU and Bethune-Cookman programs, how much did that play into your decision? The fact that your fan base did not want to lose the camaraderie and competition with Florida A&M.
Well, let's just break it down this way, Vaughn. You and I both know this. Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman University are tied to the hip in a lot of relationships in a lot of areas. Geographically, when you look at the national map, we happen to be from the state of Florida. It was the same thing that when we joined the MEAC came and approached both institutions at the same time to move from the SIAC to move up, and Dr. Cavil, you remember maybe a year or two ago, you and I sat in a New Orleans hotel lobby, and we had this very same discussion about the SWAC, and the point of the matter is this, that there are people saying, well, Bethune is following FAMU. No, we're following in our own lead, and it was a natural thing for us to do. While we are two distinctly different institutions, we are still connected to a certain degree by geographic proximity, by mission as well, and intertwined because of relationships within the state of Florida. And so, Vaughn, you're absolutely correct. The fan base is so connected. There are rivalries out there that are filled with hatred. This is not one of those. It is filled with love, And people who come to the Florida Classic for the first time ever cannot believe that pregame and postgame, all of these cookouts, all these tailgates, you just see the fans together and they're leaving together. It's just during the game where they sit on separate sides. And so, but in the meantime, we're business partners. And so we looked at this as a business proposition, and people understand historically, FAMU has left the MEAC before, and we did not leave, And so, but this was an instance where both of us arrived at the same conclusion, just maybe within a month or two of the same decision being made. And I think that our fans were so excited, and from what I'm hearing from your fans, they were equally excited that the state of Florida and the two major black colleges in the state of Florida decided in the best interest of their fan base and their institutions that this move to the Southwestern Athletic Conference was the best move to make.
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr. Thompson, as you alluded to, we've had conversation about this.
Yeah.
And in that regards, I know faith-based institution of Bethune-Cookman University, and in many people's eyes, the Bethune-Cookman University, particularly with you, I know that you are a faith-based individual yourself, but extremely confident. In the past, there has been a situation where you tried to create the culture, what I talk about the sporting HBCU diaspora, the HBCU athletic aesthetic, in regards to regionality, getting on the schedule of many of the Southwestern Athletic Conference teams. And that hasn't necessarily come to fruition as often as you may have wanted and your coaches have wanted. If you would allow me, they can't run now.
Well, and I'll tell you what, though, it cuts both ways because if we might have been talking a lot of noise, it's time to back it up, But in real terms, I just think from our fans' perspective, they wanted to see, and they want to see those games with schools that they grew up learning and hearing about.
Absolutely.
I recall as a high school football player watching Walter Payton play. I recall some of the great games. The very first game I played as a college football player was in Daytona International Speedway as a freshman when the great Parnell Dickinson came to bring his Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils into Daytona Beach. Wow. And he was phenomenal. We beat him, but he put on a show. He and Ricky Feature put on a show out there. I remember playing at Rice Stadium against Texas Southern, when they've had those great teams. So when we had a doubleheader, we played Texas Southern and Prairie View played Southern that day. They had 70,000 fans in Rice Stadium. So those kinds of moments, we may have an opportunity to rekindle those moments now. And that is great. In this era, when so much emphasis is being placed on our kids and our types of institutions, I think this allows us to really further the brands of our institutions from an individual standpoint, but collectively, when we put our power together in the footprint now, I think the future looks very bright for all of us.
Well, as we close, I'd like to
very politically astute too. There, sorry about that. I didn't throw that part in. You can see he's very politically astute, and that's why he's.
All right. Well, before we close out, Mr. Thompson, I want to give you one more opportunity to make a comment. How do you think the great Mary McLeod Bethune, who started this school against all the odds with just a few dollars and an idea, would feel about this move to help move the institution forward?
I think that she would applaud us, particularly in light of some of the other phone calls that we received, much like FAMU and everybody else. When you're looking to align with the conference, everybody had their different ideas. But the data pointed us in a certain direction. And when you look at what the data says, Kenyatta, you gotta make a data-driven decision. And I think that Dr. Bethune would say two things. Number one, she was a woman of great faith, but she also had access to data because she was plugged into Eleanor Roosevelt and the White House, and so she had access to numbers. And so she would pray and then she would act. And so I just feel that she would smile upon us and said, job well done. You took a look at where we are now and you made a projection based on the information that was provided to you, and then you prayed on it. And now let's just move forward with great faith.
Thank you.
Awesome. Kenyatta, any parting words?
No, that was well said. I think that's the perfect place to leave it.
Yes.
One thing I will say on behalf of the Southwestern Athletic Conference fan base, and as just a friend and a colleague, if you will allow me to use that, and taking some of your mentorship, I want to welcome Bethune-Cookman University and its athletic department to the Southwestern Athletic Conference and the fan base here. We look forward to the games played on the field and on the court and around the track.
Good. Well, when I come to Houston, you taking me to dinner.
No doubt about it. And as we say, go Wildcats, because
and also, as we close, this has been a great conversation. HBCU Game Day with the Vice President and Director of Athletics, the longest tenured Division I athletic director in the country, Lynn Thompson, a great friend of ours, and of course, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil from the SWAC. I'm Vaughn Wilson, and we will see you when we see you.